right, welcome. This is the Texas Cornhole Show, and this is a special episode. And I have who I think is the most OG guy in cornhole, Frank Geers. And I want everybody that listens to this show to know who Frank Geers is and what he's done for the sport of cornhole. So that's my number one objective for this entire episode. So Frank, the first thing, there's several things that I think you were the first to do, right? You were the first guy to create a national league for cornhole to see who the best cornhole player is in the country. Is that right?
That is true. 100%. So, I mean, honestly, the sport of cornhole exists today because, not to brag, but yes, it exists because of me and American Cornhole and the organization that we have become. I came across cornhole, at a tailgating event years ago, 20 years ago to be exact now. And in that process, I had saw these people playing the game of cornhole at a football game. And I'm like, man, that's a pretty cool game. So then I started to do some researching on it. At the time, Jonathan, I was in a marketing company and I was always looking for really cool ways to market a business, right? And I saw this board at this football game and I'm like, man, that's a billboard waiting to happen. And wow, couldn't we logo these bags with, Pepsi's or Cokes or Budweiser or Miller Lite or whatever? It was a great product. And in the marketing business, I was always looking for creative ways to market somebody. And that's actually, dude, how I originally got into the business of cornhole. It wasn't initially saying, hey, this could be a sport. It was 6 months after I started focusing on the marketing side of it that I really realized that there was more here than just, branded boards and bags. I was like, I can take this backyard game. Nobody's taking it and doing anything with it. How does a sport like basketball or golf begin? Somebody kicks it off and says, let's evolve this into something. And that's what I did. Dude.
So do you remember your first American Cornhole tournament?
I don't remember our first one, but our biggest one in the very early days was for a quarterback by the name of Carson Palmer.
I've heard of him. He was on my fantasy team back when fantasy football just started.
Yeah. So he did a fundraiser for years that was a golf outing. And then he flipped it because he liked this game of cornhole. So my partners and I back then did this huge event, down in it was at the practice field of the Cincinnati Bengals back then. And there was I think they raised like a couple $100,000 with this event. It was a big deal. I mean, almost $250,000 for the fundraiser that was involved with this. And that was actually the first event that I came across old school players that anybody doesn't really know about anymore, but Chu Farsing, that's where I first met Matt Guy and Randy Atha and all these really old school professional players. Matt's the only player that I still know that's in the world of cornhole at all.
So he's been around for that long. How long ago was this? This had to be 20 years ago.
This was 20 years ago. This was 20 years ago. Yep. And then the other cool thing that happened at that moment for me that was big was a Wall Street Journal called me when I was doing an article on cornhole about the same time. And I immediately, the minute I got off the phone with cornhole people, with the Wall Street people, I sent them a cornhole board and my photograph of me. I had my wife come out in the front yard, and I think we had Polaroid cameras at that time. There was no phones around. But no, she took a photo of me. I sent the board to the offices of the Wall Street Journal. The next thing you know, I end up on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and about 19 years ago. So that was a pretty cool thing that happened as well.
So was the game always called cornhole?
For me, it's always been called cornhole. In the early days, something that cool was going on is there was a real big battle between Chicago and Cincinnati at the time when the rest of the country didn't know about cornhole. Cornhole was just a thing in the Midwest. Chicago really called and referred to it as bags.
Yeah.
Cincinnati referred to it as cornhole. When we started our company, we had the opportunity to, call it something different. We could have called it American Bags or American Bag Company or whatever we wanted to call it at the time. But the group of owners at the time, we decided to stay with cornhole because there was millions of people in the metropolitan area of Cincinnati, between Northern Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana, that had already known this game as cornhole for years. And Jonathan, it's the simple reason it was called cornhole is because it was a bag of corn that was filled and sewed, and it was thrown towards a board with a hole in it. So you're throwing this bag of corn to a hole in cornhole. Now the thing is, years ago, cornhole had other connotations, so that's why we were looking at changing the name.
Right.
So when we would go south with cornhole, man, we got ripped on all the time. We're not cornhole, but it was a little tongue in cheek at the time. But now it's kind of interesting how the word has changed to mean something different, because now cornhole truly does have an absolutely second definition or a first definition, because it's pushed that other word, out of the vernacular.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So speaking of that, the whole world knowing about cornhole and what cornhole is, my understanding is you are the first guy to get cornhole, the sport of cornhole, on ESPN. Is that true?
That is true. We were on ESPN in a number of different ways. They used to report on our championships, but the coolest thing that happened with ESPN was when Kenny Mayne came out to our World Championships at Turfway Park. That was season 8, I think it was. And Kenny Mayne came out for 3 days with his ESPN crew and did a show called Wider World of Sports that summer. And that was really an interesting thing, and how this all evolved. And I got a little bit lucky with this, because I did a trip to New York where I met with MTV, Fox Sports, and ESPN at the time. And I sat in all these corporate offices. And it's neat where cornhole has become, because today you don't have to describe what cornhole is anymore. You don't have to educate people on it. But 15 years ago, these people really still didn't know exactly what this thing was. But the meetings went great out there. I got some information from both Fox and ESPN. They told me 2 bits of information when I was out there. One was our World Championships used to take place, and I always wanted to build it around the Super Bowl, because cornhole is tailgating, right?
Yeah.
So I had our World Championships happen in late January, February all the time, tied close to when the Super Bowl was. Well, they had said to me, both ESPN and Fox, that the problem with that area for your World Championships, and if you ever wanted to see your sport grow, was that you're battling too many other big sports in those months. You have college basketball, you have hockey, you have football. So, I mean, there's just NBA. There's a plethora of stuff going on at that time of the year. And they said to me, you need to move your World Championships to the summertime. And that is why, we chose the month of July. They specifically kind of leaned on July because, July has nothing but the All-Star break in baseball. And Nathan's hot dog eating contest at the time. Those are the only couple things that you had going on there. But so that was one bit of advice that they had for us. So now, Jonathan, we'd already been going for like 6 or 7 years with our World Championship at that time of the year. So we were running these cornhole seasons that were 6 to 9 months, and then leading into that World Championship. So now we had a little dilemma on our hands. The dilemma was, do we run a short season to get to the World Championships in July? Because I just came out of our World Championships in January, end of January. You're with me?
Yep.
So, and I had done this trip to out to New York in, like, I think it was February. So came back, and we decided, or do I wait 18 months to do it, July of the following year? And our decision was not to wait too long. It felt like 18 months was way too long. So we did what was called a short season. So we ran only 3 months of tournaments leading up to our rankings to then lead up to the World Championships, which that ended up being a huge thing for us, because in the month of May, I got the call from ESPN about them wanting to do this show called Wider World of Sports. And it was that summer that they wanted to do it. And had I decided to do it, our World Championships 18 months down the path, we never would have been on that ESPN show, Wider World of Sports. So that was a really fortunate thing for us in the business at the time. And the other cool thing that I took away from the New York trip, and then I'll stop talking about that, was they said to me that we needed to spruce our players up. They said, you need to put your players in jerseys, like NASCAR and everything else. So we were the first one to deck players out in logo jerseys and everything else. That was not a thing. Most players at the time were wearing T-shirts, cutoff shirts, tank tops, because it was a backyard tailgating deal. But when I was talking to ESPN and Fox, they're like, you need to clean your players up. You need to make them look like professionals. If you're trying to say that they are professional players, make them look professional. And that's when we conceived the idea of the jerseys. And it's, now become a a standard in all of cornhole.
Oh, people don't even think about it. Everybody wears a jersey now, right?
Right.
And I think I've seen if you competed in an ACO major and are wearing a certain type of jersey that you receive a bonus, right?
Yeah, there is. So if you are a pro player or a player in the ACO, and you have a pro bonus, so to speak. So if you are wearing one of our standardized pro jerseys and win that tournament, you win an extra $500 just for wearing the jersey.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty cool thing, because that's outside of the regular purse. That's on top of the regular purse that these guys can win some extra dough.
Yeah, I've thought about doing that myself. Wear my jersey, go win a big event. I'll pay you money. Right?
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing that you were the first guy to do, and I'm a bag maker for those who don't know. I make cornhole bags these days. I spend most of my time making bags.
Some of them here. Look at that one.
Oh, hey, yeah.
Right?
There we go.
It's one of my favorites. I love that one.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that was probably my first popular bag, the Bowie. Although we pronounce it Bowie.
Oh, is that how you pronounce it? Sorry, man.
People say it both ways, but I guess it's French. I don't know.
The Bowie.
Okay.
I'm gonna start. I know it's the Bowie now.
The
Bowie bag.
The Bowie. Yeah, cool. Yeah, Jim Bowie's actually more of a Louisianian than a Texan, but he died at the Alamo. So my first series of bags were all about historical Texas people.
Okay. Cool.
All right, cool. So going back to bags, my understanding, you were the first guy to introduce the two-sided bag, which blows my mind. Like, because that had to have completely changed the game of cornhole, right?
So yeah, it absolutely did. You can't go away from it. It exists now, and at every level of cornhole, in the backyard and at the professional level, you've got slow and fast sides to bags. Slower sides, whatever. But so what happened was, I don't know if you know what upholstery is, but upholstery is where you take like a piece of furniture and you recoat or recover it. My uncle was an upholsterer, years ago. And he was the first guy that started making my bags. And he'd have tubs of corn in there. And I happened to be in there picking up a load of bags and watching him sew some of these things out for me. And he had swatch books in his office. So I'm sitting there looking through these big swatch books of fabric. At the time, all cornhole bags were basically made with corn in the bag and made out of canvas. All right. The same material on both sides. Well, I was sitting there and I said, Scott, what's the chances? Because I found these couple cool fabrics. I said, what's your chances you could put this fabric on one side of the bag and this fabric on the other side of the bag for me? He said, I could definitely do that. So I had him do that. And what I had found originally was like this cool synthetic suede material. Okay. And then I found this this brush twill material. Those were the first two that I kind of blended together. And we did the test. And what I thought was, and the reason that I wanted to do it is I wanted to add more strategy to the game of cornhole. So it just wasn't about, putting a bag in the hole by, sliding it on the board. So by getting a bag with a suede, created a stick side to the bag. And by using the brush twill, that became the faster slide side to the bag. So now you open up the idea that, people could throw true blockers, on people. Right. To force them to go to the airmail. In a day, there was only 4 basic shots in cornhole. The slide shot, the block shot, the airmail shot, and the push shot. Well, Jonathan, today, these kids and everybody else have developed roll shots and all sorts of other shots that are insane.
Yes. It's frustrating.
It's frustrating.
In Texas, I think that more players play the dirty bag game than at ACO. Because I've been to a few of your tournaments, and most guys there that are not from Texas that I don't recognize have got thin floppy bags and they're going hole for hole. But yeah, and my co-host is a block guy. Every Grand Upchurch is who's usually with me on the show, and his first bag's a blocker 90% of the time. I mean, he loves.
I love it. I mean, that's the way I love to play cornhole. Is if I can throw a good block, I love to throw the block because it changes up the game for sure. Now, the problem is, I would argue that the block shot. A good true block shot is probably harder to make than an airmail or other shots in the game because
100%.
If you miss that block shot to the left or right, you're in trouble because that other player who is going to push that to the side and that bag is now out of play for you. So you've got to keep that block shot in front of the hole.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing is, where is it, right? If it's right up next to the hole, that's one thing. But one of the things I've learned with the kids that like to roll a lot is if you bring that blocker down 2 or 3 bags below the hole, that takes away their landing spot for the roll bag. And that's just another thing. But yeah, playing the block game is super interesting. And the fact that you were the first to bring up the 2-sided bag, I have to ask the question, do you ever think back and are sad that you didn't put a patent on that now that we have patents on cornhole bags?
Well, I tried to, and they basically told me that it was practically impatentable because it was not a what is it? You have 2 different types of patents, right? You have the
utility and design.
Utility and design. So it would only get a design patent, not a utility patent, from what I was told at the end of the day. And a design patent is too easy to change. I mean, I couldn't, protect it with all fabrics and stuff like that. That's what, at least maybe I had bad attorneys at the time, but that was what I was told.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, because we also were trying to, patent, or not patent, but trademark rules and stuff like that to the game. That too didn't make any sense, because when we were trying to develop and grow the sport, the attorney said, well, do you want to grow this like bowling is and everything else? You want to let the world play this game, and you want this to evolve into the world's biggest game or sport. Let it be open. So we did not and could not patent it. I mean, I know you being in the industry that you're in, you're probably going to tell me differently. That could have been patented.
I'm retired.
You're retired.
I'm a reformed attorney. Yeah. I think I've handled my last legal matter for the rest of my life. That's my goal.
Yeah.
If one comes up that I have to deal with, I will, but for the most part, I'm done. All right, cool. So the other thing, and briefly, I got to tell you, this is my very first remote interview, right? And I need to upgrade to Zoom Pro. It's telling me we're running out of time in 5 minutes. So answer this question. I'll upgrade and we'll get you back on to follow up, because there's a bunch more things, or a lot more that I want to talk to you about. All right. You were the first guy to put plastic in cornhole bags. You took the corn out of cornhole. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. And I'll tell you what, it was an idea that came to me because I was forced to do this originally, because a big client of ours in the early day was Carnival Cruise. I had managed to get cornhole on cruise ships for the first time. And for years, they were a client of ours. And that's actually one of the ways that the sport has grown over the years, is by all these international people seeing this game on the boats and stuff like that. So I was the first one to put cornhole on cruise ships. But here's what happened. The bags were getting mildewy, and they were also being eaten by bugs and rodents or whatever on the boats.
Yeah.
So they said, you need to come up with a better product than this for us that, won't mildew and won't. So that's where I conceived the idea of, the plastic pellet. We called it resin. It was resin material. And so now you pretty much can't find a cornhole bag on the planet that has corn in it, unless you go to some old runky-dunk bar, which is sometimes fun to play in, dude.
Yeah, they leave the big clouds of white powder when they land. We
just had one of those matches this past week that, every bag weighed different. One was almost like a piece of paper mache that you were just throwing through the air. But no, in all honesty, the thing that was cool about the concept of going ahead and putting resin in the bags. Now, I will tell you, I got a lot of backlash when I originally did that amongst the purists of the game. So the purists of the game were like, dude, you can't do that. It's called corn. Like you just said, take the corn out of cornhole. You're like, you can't do that, man. I'm like, well, Jonathan, one of my ideas was to just put one kernel of corn in every bag. And so I could say, well, it's still got the corn in there. But it's like golf. I think golf used to call, the old golf ball used to be called a feathery or something like that. But that evolved into, Nike, whatever, balls and things. It just made the sport better because, again, it made consistency with the bag. So each time you picked up a bag, it weighed the same, right? It is not going to lose weight because corn is a lot of water. And as you know, decomposes and turns to powder and goes away. The other thing was it eliminated the rodents. Very few rodents are interested in eating plastic pellets. And then the other thing that, was nice about it is, well, I already basically said it, the weight stays the same. So it's just consistency. It made the game better, that the product was more consistent now. So, yeah, but I did that. I was the one that started the whole plastic pellet in a bag.
Yeah. And from my perspective, try to find this stuff, because now the filler in the bag makes a huge difference. And I've got my own blends that I like. I combine multiple different kinds of fillers. There's recycled, there's non-recycled, there's different kinds of fillers that are made in different ways. So they feel different. They have a different density. Some are more consistent than others. Some are less consistent than others. And then over the last month or two, probably the biggest manufacturer of plastic resin that everybody was using, this flat resin everybody loved, stopped making it. Or stopped making it as consistently as they used to. They basically said this isn't worth our time. And they lost an employee and didn't want to train up a new one. So what they're putting out now is totally different than what they put out before, and people are complaining. And it's funny if you go back in time, it's like it's not corn, right? This is actually super consistent relative to where we were 10, 20 years ago. Let's go back to all the things that you've done for cornhole, right? Again, my listeners have to know who this guy is, Frank Geers. All right. Mini cornhole, that's becoming more and more and more popular. I understand this is also something that you kind of brought to the world.
It is, and the story behind mini cornhole was not originally invented and created to play the game. So when we first got involved with cornhole, we were a products driven company. Remember, I told you I was a marketing guy and looking for ways to market people, and then I was into the idea of selling equipment, creating the best board on the planet. And, so when we created our best board on the planet, number one, it was expensive as heck. It was like $350, and it was heavy. Right. And so I was really out wanting to push this product onto companies like Pepsi Cola. I wanted them buying, hundreds of these boards. Well, when I looked to have a sales team involved, I realized that it was very difficult for them to carry a big cornhole set into a sales meeting. Right. So I conceived the idea of just making the board small, like almost shoebox size, and reduced it basically about 50%. So a traditional board is basically 2 foot by 4 foot. I just made basically a 1 foot by 2 foot box, and I duplicated our Pro Series board. So everything from the screws to the foot mounts to everything was a duplicate of the big guy. Once we made it, we realized that, this is pretty cool. This is fun to play. Yeah. I mean, so we started playing it in the hotel rooms. We started playing in the hallways, to the point where, we ended up having a real big order 17 years ago when I first created it. I've only got 2 or 3 of them left, but they're relics in the world. But we did one for Jim Beam. So we did 500 of these boards, and they were sharp looking, dude. And it was before all the printing technology had evolved into digital. Yeah. So at the time, they were actually silk screen. So we had like 8 different layers of ink placed on these mini boards, and they look beautiful. I don't know if you know what silk screening is, or your audience.
Sure. Yeah.
But
it's old school. It's an old technique.
It's definitely old school. But now everything is digitally printed. But no, so we created these mini cornhole boards so a young woman could carry in the set of boards and showcase it to a potential client and selling it. And that's where the whole concept of a mini board came from nearly 17 years ago.
So did you ever propagate rules about mini boards or mini cornhole?
We did. Our distance was 13 feet, board to board. We actually ended up increasing the size of the hole. Originally, we made the hole 3 inches. But we increased it just slightly, I think, to about 3.5, just to give the bags, because at the time it was our bags weren't as good as they are now. They hadn't evolved as much, but now the mini bags are outstanding. Matter of fact, we actually had a season where we ran points earning division within the ACO. We had a world championships out in Montgomery that we had a little mini championship, go on there. So it's one of those things that we eventually will probably evolve back around to bringing it back. We just haven't yet. But that's the history of the mini board. And we had the airmail box. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but I'm sure you are because you're a cornhole. But we were the originators of the airmail box, and that was originally developed to have players practice their airmail shot.
Was it? Sorry to interrupt you, but was it a box or a pipe? Right?
No, it was a box.
It was a box.
It was a box. So we actually had, and there's very few of these in existence anymore. But it was we made it so the slope of it was the same slope, the same height. So where the box set, if you took a board and cut that out, was basically, again, everything was identical to the board. So it wasn't the pipe thing that, shoot it and all those other people are, doing these days. It was actually a box with a hole in it. And with that, we did have, airmail challenges, and we created a bag called billiard bags, that were bags that were numbered 1 through 8 and looked like billiard balls. All right.
Yeah.
So that was an invention that we had too. And there's companies out there that are selling those and stuff now as well. But with that, we actually created a game using the airmail, box and those bags. So you try to score. I think the perfect score was a 36. And that was if you shot all airmails with those 8 bags. Only person I ever saw do that was a guy by the name of Eric Zockline, EZ. And he did it basically walking into Charleston, West Virginia. We had an amazing cornhole tournament outdoors on the baseball field. There'd been guys trying all day to, score the most points. And he walks up, grabs these 8 bags, and literally like 9:30, 9:45 at night, he goes, boom, 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 boom. And it was something to behold. But no, that was another thing. And another product you may or may not have seen before. We call it the Challenger board, but the Challenger board was basically 1 foot by 4 foot in length. So you just had a thin board, and you got rid of the sides with a hole at the end. And once again, that was just a training tool to get better focused on throwing down the lane, right? And some people, we did a couple of tournaments. We had a thing called the Cornathlon. And the Cornathlon incorporated, the Challenger board and the airmail box, and around the board we had a game called Around the Board, where you would take just like in basketball, you're shooting around the hoop. You would hit from around the board in every corner that you could, from the sides, from the back, and stuff like that. So just a lot of things over the years, but no, those are some interesting products though to share with you.
Well, so we have, and you're still innovating, right? I have been watching you online, right? I pay a lot of attention to the American Cornhole organization, and 2 things I've noticed that are pretty cool. Adaptive cornhole. Well, let's just start with that before I list both of them. But you have a new contest called Adaptive Cornhole. Why don't you tell our listeners about it?
Yeah, it's something for about 2 or 3 years that I've been working on as I've been watching the whole industry of what's called adaptive sports. And this is for an industry that's been created to give men and women who have maybe lost the ability or never had the ability to walk necessarily, who are wheelchair bound, give them something to do. So there's things called like sled hockey. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's people playing on basically sleds on ice, and it's a hockey game. You've seen rugby you've seen basketball, wheelchair basketball, etc. So this adaptive cornhole was something that was conceived a few years ago by me, but I really hadn't had the perfect opportunity yet to unveil it to the world. And then one of our partnering cities, Buffalo, New York, reached out to us, and the head of a chapter out there for adaptive sports, Norm, I ended up hooking up with him, and we ran a major out there this year, just a couple of weeks ago, and we introduced for the first time ever adaptive cornhole. We've actually got some rankings now in place. We've got rules in place. The rules that are in place, Jonathan, are rules that are going to change over the next year, drastically, because this is something we had to actually get into motion to really figure out how it would evolve. But it's really cool. The basic rules to the game are right now, you have to be playing from a wheelchair.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I can play. Is that right?
That's where I was going to get at. That's what I was going to get at. Yes, you can play. So the rules of the game are you have to be playing from a wheelchair. Your wheels need to stay behind the foot foul line or the wheel foul line in this particular case. You do need to have your feet, I think, up on, how a wheelchair has like foot rests and stuff like that. Because once again, what you were just getting ready to suggest is that we are allowing individuals that are able to walk to compete in this category, but they have to adapt and they have to play from the same chair as the person that's wheelchair bound. And it was exciting. We had this event out there. We had 8 or 9 total teams that competed. And of that, I think 7 of the people could walk like if I'm like your brother or your dad or something like that, and I was in an accident or something, and now I'm wheelchair bound, you and I could play as partners. Now, the one thing that we've decided to do right now is we are wholly focused at this moment on doubles only. It'll evolve into more eventually, but we're focused on doubles. Reason we're focused on doubles is a couple reasons. Number one, we don't have enough players yet competing in this to worry about a bunch of other divisions. That's why we don't have a women's division and a seniors division and a men's division or whatever at this. It's just one single division this year with the ACO, and it's doubles. Okay. And then it's also easier on everybody because you don't have to wheel down to the other side,
Right.
and, spin around. It's, you're throwing the bags. I'll tell you what, though, it is hard. And I think the individuals that are historically wheelchair bound are going to have an advantage over players like you and me trying to get in the wheelchair because they've built such an upper body strength, usually from their wheelchair. They have been in that chair for a while, so they know how to maneuver it and things like that.
Yeah.
Because if you look at our Buffalo event, there was different style of wheelchairs being used. There were sports wheelchairs that we were talking about before that had the wheels that kind of go out. There's a traditional wheelchair that had the wheels that go straight up and down. Players were kind of turning to the side or turning to the front, depending on how to get away from that wheel. We even had players asking us if you could throw overhand. Well, right now we're trying to keep the rules as close to traditional cornhole as possible. So right now we're not allowing players to throw the bag overhand.
Right.
That could change or evolve as we evolve this adaptive cornhole. But that was an interesting thing. The distance that we had originally set up, Jonathan, was going to be 25 feet front edge to front edge instead of 27 feet. The logic behind that was if you're sitting in the wheelchair, you're automatically about 2 feet back from the line. So you're throwing further back than anybody else. So if we moved it 2 feet up, we figured you were still throwing about an equal distance as traditional cornhole.
Yeah, but I think that's really, really cool, man. I think the adaptive cornhole is neat. And the pictures of it, everybody had smiles on their faces. They're having a good time. Great idea. Okay, more good ideas. Former golfer here. I got into cornhole after I couldn't play golf anymore.
Yeah.
I love skins. Skins were so much fun because I could be hyper aggressive, just go for the win every single time. Don't have to play it safe because in golf, and just like cornhole, you have a big blow up. That's a problem, right? That's a lot of strokes that you've lost. But in skins, you can have a blow up and then just keep going. Like keep putting your foot on the gas and just keep going. And you're bringing skins to cornhole. And I hope, people have been taking your ideas and running with them for years and years. I hope this one is one that gets taken and ran with, I guess. But tell me about skins.
Skins is huge. Skins is a great game, and as you already alluded to, this idea was came through golf and the concept there. But what it is, and we actually have a Pro Series Skins tour, right? And the cool thing about Skins too is not only playing for the points. So the way it's structured right now is you're competing. There are 13 skins in a game. So this does a couple things. It increases what we believe is going to be more exciting cornhole to watch. Okay. Players are going to get more aggressive with shots and stuff like that. You're not losing as many, points. You're losing 1 point generally. Now, just like in golf, they can push though.
Let me just give our listeners, for those who don't know, a brief explanation of how skins works. Okay. It's pretty simple. It's the round that matters. Who wins the round? That's all that matters. If it's a 12-0, the guy who got 12 only gets 1 point. He gets one skin, right? Yep. So it's not going to be 12-0. It's just 1-0. The other cool thing about skins is the skins carry. So if you wash, or now I'm assuming this is how you do it in cornhole. If you wash a round, the next round is worth 2 skins.
2 skins. Yep.
Oh man. So the pressure builds and the pressure builds. It's so much fun to play.
No, and so what we got is it's a race to 7 skins, right? Is the way we're playing the game. So the first player to win 7 skins. So here's what's cool about it. You could start a game, you and I, and we could both throw 10s, right?
Yeah.
So the skin pushes. So now it's worth 2. We could keep doing that. We could throw 8s together. Now it's worth 3. We could throw 2 7s and it's worth 4, et cetera. And it keeps moving. Now, all of a sudden, let's say that we started this game and we pushed or washed the first 6 skins or frames. Now, A company like Scoreholio refers to it as a round. We refer to it as a frame, right?
Okay.
But anyway, so in a frame, its frame is 4 bags, right? You're 4 bags for you and 4 bags for your competitor. If it gets to that, we pushed it 6 times. Now we're in that 7th frame, right?
Yeah.
Now it's all in. It's all or nothing. Now it's whoever wins the next frame wins the entire game and all the skins on the table. Okay. So the way we're doing it with the Pro Series is awesome. So we've got our pro players are able to play in this Pro Series for free, right? So we've got one coming up in Owensboro, Kentucky. That one's going to have $10,000 on the line for the pro players. Okay. And the way it works is each game is going to be worth $650. Every skin is going to be worth $50.
Oh, very cool.
So if we got to the point in our game that, like I said, that you and I had pushed to the 7th frame.
Yeah.
Now, whoever wins that next frame wins all the money on the table, all $650, all 13 frames. Jonathan, it is really going to be fun. It's going to change, I think, everything in cornhole. It is a future way that we see a lot of the ACO going is towards this for TV purposes for us and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, instead of just having 10 rounds, right? That's one of the ways they've limited time is just having 10 rounds. But I think the skins concept is great. I loved it as a golfer, and I definitely want to play some skins matches as a cornhole player.
We'll do it this weekend there in Bryan.
Oh, there will be skins there?
Well, be you and me are going to play some skins.
Okay, you want to place a wager?
We'll play for some beer. That's almost a 12-pack. So it's a beer and skin, man.
I'm sober these days, Frank. I don't drink.
All right, well, I'll drink your beer for you.
Deal. Oh man, deal. All right, cool. Yeah, so you definitely innovated. You continue to innovate. Frank Geers. Every single one of my listeners has to know who you are. All right. Negative feedback. So when I bring up ACO, I've only been playing cornhole for 3 to 4 years now.
Sure.
When I bring up ACO, a lot of people talk about the payouts. 2 things. Payouts aren't big enough. And I hear a story about you not paying out. Like people won a big tournament and they didn't get paid. So right. I would love for you to address these concerns that people have, these things that people say about ACO, or at least in Texas, at least in my area. That's what I've heard. So I just want to give you the opportunity to talk about it and to respond to those criticisms.
Well, first of all, it's fake news. First of all, no player in the ACO has never been paid. We've paid every single player, that we've owed. There has been a couple incidents though. The biggest one, and the one that, I think that most people are referring to, and most of these people that are talking about it don't know, and you're giving me the opportunity to share the real story and what went down. So we had a world championship in July. I can't remember what year it was, but it was in Montgomery, Alabama. And we had a big sponsor that was on board, a big beer company that was involved with us. I had hired a guy to sell for us. We had Budweiser on board as a big sponsor. So we had promoted this $65,000 tournament for the World Championships. In the month of July, we find out that the sponsor was not a real sponsor deal. It did not exist. So we had our World Championships. We were only able to pay out there $35,000 of the $65,000 based on the entry fees that we had gotten for that World Championships. Basically paid, all of that out that we had. So I had to get on the phone after telling these players the situation, calling each one of them individually, apologizing to them. This is the Jamie Grahams of the world and the Matt guys of the world and all those players. I had to call them each individually and apologize that we could not get all their money at the World Championships, and said, look, you will get paid. You just need to give me a little bit of time to get there. So the way we did it was we had this whole list of all these people that we owed. It took me 6 months to eventually get everybody paid off. To earn that money to get back to the point of getting clean with everybody. But we paid every single one of those players off. And that's it. And that's the rest is history. But the problem is how, fake news is and, rumors travel and stuff like that is the society and the world doesn't really know Frank Geers personally. But we paid every single one of those players back.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think a lot of people in your situation, that's a 30 grand is a big number for a lot of people that are, a small business. And in some cases, it might be easier just to walk away from that debt and not pay it. But you stuck to your word. You paid everybody, I think.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, it's been and there was one other. So that was a real bad sour mark to the ACO for sure. And it's just spread rumors for years that for whatever reason we can't get rid of it. And largely it's due to a lot of jealous people out there, a lot of jealous organizations that are always trying to take jabs at us. That was about the time the L came around, and they I think started doing some stuff. That might have been the first year with them coming on TV, and I really think that they thought that was going to be the thing that put us under, because they were moving towards this TV deal. I had this money situation with the players, blah blah blah. But it wasn't. I mean, we're not going anywhere. I mean, like I told you, Jonathan. I mean, we're here to stay, and we're here to keep growing the sport. We're actually working on some international stuff ourselves right now. So it looks like, in the spring or late winter, we will be going over, it looks like, to possibly Europe somewhere. So pretty excited about that too, as we continue to evolve and grow as an organization, with innovations, like you said, as well as bigger and better tours, purses, TV, et cetera.
Yeah. Are you guys in Canada by chance? I've been shipping bags to Canada. I had to change my shipping policy because you mentioned international, and on my website it's free shipping. I ship bags for free.
Now you're shipping to Canada,
dude. I had to change it. I had to change it because I kept getting orders to Canada, and it's like $30 to ship to Canada.
It's funny. Our very second World Championships, we had a contingency of like 20 Canadian players that came down and competed in Las Vegas, Nevada, years ago at our World Championships. We do not currently run a major in Canada yet. We will be doing that soon. The closest we got to Canada so far this year was Buffalo, New York, which is right on the border.
Oh yeah, that's about as close as you can get.
Yeah, up in Niagara.
All right, cool. Well, the main reason I thought about bringing you on the show is because the ACO is coming to Texas. Right, you'll be in Texas several times, or twice this season, I believe, for the list that I've created.
Yep.
And this weekend, you're coming to Texas, and Big D, my bag company, is going to be sponsoring a special where if you show up to play the tournament, you will get a free membership for doubles, a doubles team. Both players get free memberships and an entry into the doubles tournament, which is, I think, huge. This is a $2,000 doubles tournament. And you could show up and play for free. Incredible promotion brought to you by Big D. Thanks, Big D, for that. And thanks, Frank, for working with us to get that done.
I love it. I mean, I appreciate you sponsoring that and doing that, for the players. And like you said, I mean, it's a guaranteed $2,000 purse tournament too.
Yeah. So, I mean, around here, $2,000 purse for a doubles tournament, people would call that a big money tournament. And right now, not a lot of people have signed up. Let's just be honest about that, and which means you have a pretty good chance of winning.
Yeah, so you absolutely do.
Yeah, come on down and play at Bryan, and the facility there is really nice, right?
Yeah,
you want to talk about that? The Legends Center,
the facility. But what I want to do is talk to some of these players. Jonathan, I'd love some of these players to come down and meet me. I will be there. I would love to talk to them face to face. Maybe get them to change their mind or discover who the ACO really is. People are really passionate about our organization, the people that have been playing with us for years. I mean, we have players that have been with us for 2 decades now. We have players we have a thing called the Road Dog, Jonathan. I don't know if you know what the Road Dog is.
I do.
But it's players, dude, that travel to 13 majors across the country. And we're talking about going from Panama City Beach to Las Vegas, Nevada. And it was named after a guy by the name of Mike Schaefer Sr., who was one of the first pro players on the planet. And a great friend of mine who passed away, from cancer a little while back. And the Road Dog is, again, an award given to these people. And I think we had expected the first year we did it, which was last year, we had 7 or 9 Road Dog warriors, right? So we expected maybe to have 5 to 7 people do this on an annual basis. Last year, at this World Championships just passed in Owensboro, we had 33 players from like 17 states that ended up doing this. And this is expensive, man. These players spend a lot of money. They're taking off days of work. And I'm so appreciative of these players. But what I'm talking to you about right now is just the passion of these people that play within the ACO. I don't know if you know what a lifetime member is either.
Oh,
I wanted
do.
to tell you about
I'm going to give.
stuff,
so let me give an introduction to this lifetime membership, because I think I know where you're going with this. And there is a relatively famous Texas cornhole player named Bud Dotson, and he's got 2 cornhole tattoos. All right, one of them takes up like the entire pec muscle of the Fort Worth TCL region, and the second one, his whole upper arm is covered with a bag maker's logo. A bag maker who changed his name. Like, he went from Baghdaddies to 321 back to Baghdaddies. I think if I was getting a big tattoo, I would go with a bag maker that has more consistency in his name, which I'm totally kidding. But yeah, Bud Dotson's got some tattoos. So my understanding, lifetime members, how well, you tell our viewers, our listeners, how do you get a lifetime membership to the ACO?
So it's fabulous, because the reason this all started was a lady by the name of Teresa Gregory came to me a few years back. I think it was probably 5 years ago at a tournament in Owensboro. And she asked if it would be okay for her to put our logo on her foot. Okay.
Yeah.
And she said she wanted to do it in honor of her son, who had just made pro status, because on her other foot, she had a tattoo. I think it was an Air Force for her son who was in the military. Right. So I'm like, Teresa, if you want to put our logo on your foot, go for it. So she did it, and it was awesome, right? Yeah. So then William Howe, a buddy of mine out of West Coast, cornhole out there, he ended up getting a big tattoo of the ACO on his forearm about the same time as Teresa. Then we're in Vegas, and my son ends up putting a tattoo on his calf for my birthday, right? And then a guy by the name of Aaron Candler was in Vegas that same year. First time ever he had met me or the ACO. That weekend, he got a tattoo on his arm, right? A big ACO shield. That's where it all started, Jonathan. What it evolved into is we were like, well, shoot, maybe we got something here. So we ended up creating this thing called lifetime members. And what they get, if they're willing to put ink on their body of our tattoo, is they get their own landing page on our website. They get their own ACO lifetime jersey. They never have to pay membership dues again to the ACO, and they get to play for free in a cash money tournament at the World Championships that is exclusively for the lifetime members.
Oh man, I love it. That's a great idea.
And we thought that now I have to go get my tattoo because I'm due. I mean, I'm past due now because I'm supposed to be 99. I never thought we would get past like 20, dude. And in less than 2 years, we're at like 131 people from like 30 states now that have branded their bodies with the ACO logo. So I love them. I respect them. I love the family that the ACO has created. You're both with our bag partners now, our certified officials, and that's one of the things that you can't understand, or you do understand, I think, how important the certified officials are to the ACO. These are the men and women that love and are passionate about the sport of cornhole, want it to grow, and they are out there. They're the ones that are the boots on the ground. Working in Oregon, working in Florida, working in California and Texas and Michigan. They're the ones running the local tournaments to help.
Okay. And so your term for that is certified official?
Yep. And that's what we call certified official. These, again, are the different groups that have different names. They run their own businesses, but it's very economical for them to do this. If there's anybody in Texas that's interested in becoming a certified official, I mean, you can do it. There's a free option, but I highly recommend, doing the dealer option, which is only $250. You have to pass a test. You have to have a location with a zip code that you're able to play cornhole in. And then we just request that you run a certain number of tournaments throughout the course of the 9 months that we're in season. And that basically, Jonathan, is pushing our two main categories, which is world singles and world doubles. There's other divisions you can run, like seniors and women's and juniors and co-ed. But the focus is really on, world singles and world doubles that you're running that monthly for players, in your market. But we we don't control your business. It's very economical thing to do. We only charge I think it's like $35 a tournament that they want to play. So they can pay out whatever they want to pay out. They can keep what they want to keep to run the stuff. And again, all they have to do is pass a test and be passionate about cornhole and the ACO.
And so they're able to run point earning events, right? So my understanding of the way ACO works, and forgive me for not having a complete understanding of this, but it's
Sure.
like most leagues where you get points, right? And then at the end of the season, everybody has a certain number of points. Now, somebody in our region or our area that's going for the ACO Pro is named Scott Beck, and he's listed all the majors he's going to. And well, maybe you should describe to our viewers how somebody becomes an ACO Pro.
So there's two ways to become an ACO Pro, and this is the first year that we've changed it a little bit, but it's not much. So if you finish in the top 96 in the country at the end of the season, you will be recognized, as a pro player.
And is that total points that earned through regionals and majors, and it's an accumulation?
Total points. Yep. And so within our system, we currently, I believe, use the top 4 majors. And majors are tournaments that take place all over the country.
Yeah.
Again, we've got this one down in Bryan as we're continuing to try to grow our presence in Texas. We just came off one that had 350 plus players out in Hamilton, Ohio. I think 17 states were represented at that particular one. They're all different sizes, anywhere between 40 to 400 is kind of the range. We have bigger ones that even reach 600-700 players at them. But and it doesn't mean bigger necessarily means harder, right? I mean, you can have a major with 180 players, but 90 of them are pro players. So can make it a lot more difficult than that tournament with 600 players and only 30 pro players. But anyway, pro status is earned by finishing this year in the top 96, and that is the top 96 in points, like you're saying, and you earn points through your 4 best major finishes and your 8 best regional finishes, dictates, and you have things like the Corny 40. So if you finish in the top 40, that's what we call the 40 best players on the planet in the ACO at the end of the season are referred to as the Corny 40. Well, we got things that are cool that if you finish the Corny 40 status, you earn your own special jersey. It's a Corny 40 Field of Dreams jersey. One of the things that's cool about finishing in the Corny 40 is we have this $25,000 tournament that we've run the last couple of years out at the Field of Dreams, where they get to come and compete for free in this big doubles tournament for a purse that's a guaranteed $25,000. So I know they were singles as Corny 40, but they get to find a partner and come out and compete, and that's one of the bennies of an example of a benny of becoming a pro with the ACO. We have other invitational tournaments that they bypass. We have this Pro Series. The Pro Series this year has 5 events. Pro players get to play for free at every one of these events. 4 of them have a guaranteed $5,000. These are the skins events that you and I just got done talking about, right? And the way the Pro Series works is we do a thing called the frame game. The frame game is where you throw 52 bags. The perfect score is 156. Nobody on the planet has ever scored 156 yet. It'll be some time, I think, before somebody does it. Douglas Parker came the closest, almost nailed it in Panama City Beach, missed 1 bag.
Oh, wow.
Only bag and he missed the 1 bag in the 11th frame. And I was over there scoring another court with some pros on it, and the whole center court, he happened to be on center court. It was packed. There was probably 100 people gathering around as he was doing it. So pressure was mounting for him. He was in his 11th frame of 13, Jonathan. I turn around just to see the commotion that's going on. And lo and behold, I watched the very first bag and the only bag that he misses skip off.
So you're the jinx.
I'm
you
the
jinxed
jinx,
him?
man.
Oh,
I'm the jinx, man.
Come on.
Douglas Parker, I'm sorry, buddy. But no, it's really cool. So the way the Pro Series, though, works real quick is that we take these players, these pro players, every single one of them that shows up at the tournament has to wear their pro jersey if they want to play for free. They could wear a sponsor jersey, but then they pay an extra money to be in the tournament. They throw a frame game. We take the top 16 frame game scores, and those guys advance to the main bracket, okay, which is now the skins bracket this year. Okay. So it'll be a bracket of 16. It's single elimination. Each match in the $5,000 guaranteed purse tournaments, each match is worth $325 or $25 a skin. And what's so cool about this too, Jonathan, is think about this. You and I could play a skins game. And as I told you earlier, the skins game goes to 13 skins, right? If each one is worth $25, if you beat me 7-6, you move on to another $325 match. I lose, but you won $175.
Yeah.
I still walk away with $150. So
I love the skins
cool
concept.
stuff, man. But this is awesome stuff for our pro players. And
so again, the things that you give pros are pretty cool, right? They get to play a bunch of tournaments for free.
Yeah.
The other question I don't know the answer to: do you make your pros sign contracts?
We do not make our pros sign contracts at this time.
Do you make them pay a fee to be a pro?
You have to earn, and there is no fee to pay to be a pro. You have to earn status of pro through playing with us. So, what you might have to pay is, pay entry fees to play in tournaments. But you do not pay any fee up front to be an ACO pro. You do not sign any kind of contract. We do not limit you from playing in any other leagues. If you think another league is better to play in, or you have something there that you want to go do it. We're not trying to keep you away from something you love, which is cornhole.
Yeah.
But
what about going back to the rules officials, right? Who run tournaments? Do they have to sign, or do they have to be exclusive to ACO? Can they run other tournaments as well?
They don't have to be. We encourage, they can run their own tournaments. But if you're going to, sign up as a certified official with the ACO, we want you to be a certified official with the ACO. We don't have a contract that says you have to do that, but we highly, highly encourage, and we want you to focus your energies on, as a league, focus on ACO growth, not any other organization's growth, other than your own, running your own events. And really where the money is to be made for these certified officials is, not necessarily running these regional tournaments. It's running the corporate outings, it's running the charity events, it's running these things in your localized market. You don't have a lot of traveling expenses. You've got big corporations that have the extra money to pay. And it's more about, that's where I think a lot of opportunity for, these certified officials and men and women wanting to get in the cornhole world can make money, is doing stuff like that. And then at the same time, working with us to help grow the actual sport and recognition of the sport by running some of these regional events, points earning tournaments in their local markets, and making the ACO more accessible to players across the country, not just players in the Midwest or East Coast.
Right. Well, so I did make a little bit of a list here for somebody that's in this area that wanted to try to become an ACO pro. You've got majors, so you need to go to at least 4 of these, but because you're going to take your top 4 scores, right? Because I'm thinking points earning. You got to find 8 regionals. I know we have some up in Texas. Maybe some people are up in Oklahoma. I'm not sure about this region for regionals. But majors, there's one in Tupelo, one in Tulsa, Bentonville, Bryan, Texas, Shreveport, which everybody who's listening to this has played cornhole in Shreveport, and Lubbock, Texas. So those are majors that are coming to this area that people can reasonably get to, drive that day to get up there and try to compete and become an ACO pro.
Yeah,
a lot of people just want that status, right?
Yeah, and you're talking about that's the one way to become pro status, but there is another way. You just need to earn enough points that qualify you for the world championships, and so you have to have a world membership, which is $50. You also have to, and if you come out this week, Big D is, and you're from the Old West, Big D is sponsoring those memberships. So come out and get your free ACO membership. It's a $50 value, and you get to play in the doubles for free for that $2,000. But what I was going to say is, you just have to earn enough points, which I believe is 600 points in our system this year, to be eligible to buy a ticket to the World Championships. So you really don't have to travel to all these events. But if you show up at the World Championships, you're going to need to finish in the top 64 to earn pro status with the ACO. And I will tell you that that's no easy task.
Yeah. How many people were at the last World Championships? How many players?
742, I think, was our total count at the World Championships last year in terms of players.
Yeah.
And we had about 1,200 total guests there for the week in town. So
and it's going to be in the same place, right? Owensboro?
This year we're going back to Owensboro. Yep.
That venue looked amazing. I didn't see it in person, but it looked really, really nice.
Venue is awesome. I think we paid out a total of almost $100,000 in prize money. It was guaranteed 75. This year we're at least guaranteeing the 75 again, plus the additional payouts that we have. But I think it's going to grow with some sponsorships that we have going on. So I expect even a larger purse and some bigger stuff going on this year at the World Championships as well.
What's the easiest way to earn 600 points?
Pro membership. And play in 4 regionals in the course of the year, and win those regionals because you can get your 25 points there. So that's probably the easiest way. You show up in a major, that's a way to earn some quick points. By showing up in a major, that's basically going to double your regional points, especially if you qualify through the pool play.
I think I might try, Frank. I think I might try to be a pro. I'm
You're
not bad.
Try to be a pro, dude?
You think I could be a pro? I can throw about
first thing
somewhere between an 8 and an 8.5 PPR, but I've got a bit of a dirty game, so I can slow down those hole for hole players that love the ACO.
Dude, you and I are going to have a good game then, because my game fluctuates between a 4.2 and a 10. So 4.2, if you get me there, you're going to kick my butt. If I'm throwing 10s, you're going to be in trouble. But no,
all right.
My PPR is probably about right now 7 or something like that, 7-1. But it literally. Dude, this game is so crazy, man. I literally can go from, throwing 3 or 4 4-baggers in a row to having a frame where I throw a 1 or a 2.
I'll throw a 0. I stopped practicing is what happened. And so now I think I'm as good as I used to be when I practiced, and then I show up and I stink. I'm just not good at all.
Well, don't practice before I hook up with you this weekend.
Yeah, I think I'm playing tonight, and I'm going to play, I think, so I don't know. I'll play tonight. So I'm going to practice a little bit. I do want to point out on my trophy shelf back up here. You see that?
Oh yeah. You got some trophies there.
Right there is a check from the ACO.
Oh, is that what that one is?
Yeah. I placed 5th at one of your majors with my buddy, Mason Terry, who's another bag maker, by the way, the Bag Brokers, one of the ACO bag makers.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like me. He also makes bags for TCL, and he and I teamed up and managed to get 5th. He totally choked at the end. We could have gone farther, but
look at you blaming your partner, man.
Yeah,
look at you.
It's because we were throwing my bags
under the bus, man. Hey, you need to get some ACO wood up there, though. Maybe you could do it this weekend.
I'm bringing some shooters, man. I don't know. Do you have to get 3rd place and better? Is that the hardware?
The hardware is just first. We only give hardware out to the first place players.
No, I can't beat some of these guys.
Well, if you get into the big blind on Friday night,
I got a chance.
You can pair up with one of your big dogs, man.
Is Gary Bearpaw registered? Do you know?
I don't even know who's all registered on the roster. I would have to believe Bearpaw's coming to this one. There's a couple big names I know for sure that are coming in.
Andy from B3 Cornhole said a couple of his players that he sponsors are coming all the way from Vegas. I think is what he told me. I'm like, are you kidding me? They're going to drive from Las Vegas to Bryan,
they're flying
Texas.
in. They could be flying in.
Yeah, they could be.
Your boy, don't you sponsor Spencer Garner on the ACO tour?
Yeah, I'm going to get some photos and videos and make a social media post about it next week. But yeah, Spencer Garner is Big D's only ACO sponsored player. We made a bag just for him. We sent some prototypes back and forth. We designed a bag just for him. It's called The Great because that's his nickname.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited about it. He's a great kid and a cool family, and I'm excited to be able to support them and ship them a bunch of bags every month. They get bags because your bag policy, I have to say, as a bag maker, your bag policy is great. I can make custom bags for people. I can ship out bags to whoever I want. It's a flat license instead of a ongoing royalty or a wholesale retail arrangement. From my perspective, I love it as a bag maker because for Spencer, for example, right? Design a bag for him. Got it approved through ACO, and now I can just send him all the bags I want. I don't have to, go through you or pay you royalties for the bags I sent him.
Yeah,
I love it. That's fantastic. Yeah, thanks for setting that up.
No, we love it too, and we're trying to get we look at our bag partners as true partners, man. We want them, helping to promote the ACO, helping to get players to the tournaments, helping them, helping to grow the sport, really. And the only way to do that is if it's a win-win for everybody involved, whether that be the players, the partners, the sponsors, whoever. We're in it for the long haul, and we're in it for everybody. I mean, we're not a greedy company. We do need to make money, and we want to make money because that's how we, get better, and that's how we make things better for everybody. But no, we appreciate our bag partners as much as I hope they appreciate what we're doing for them.
How many bag makers do you have in your system right now?
I think it's right now 51.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it keeps growing. I think there's 3 or 4 more that are coming over. Caught wind that there's a couple more that are looking at jumping from other groups and coming this way again this year. So we lost a couple of bag partners that were with us last year have either gone out of business or skipped over a different direction in their stuff. But no, we've got I mean, it's a strong group and a good group of bag partners. If you can't find a bag maker,
try a different sport
with in the ACO, man, you're doing something wrong, dude. You got to find a new sport.
Yeah, there's some really high quality bags in the ACO. I can attest to that. I think I make some of the best bags out there, and and there's a lot of guys out there that make really good bags too. So
yeah, good series. What you got, like 7 series, don't you?
Yeah, my more popular ones that I've brought to ACO are the Bandit Queen. Which is same materials as a popular ACL bag called the Fallout X. But what I did is all my most popular bags in TCL I brought over to ACO. So it's the Bandit Queen, the Archangel, the Dude, Bowie or Bowie.
I got you saying Bowie.
Yeah, and then I've also got the Maryland. And Maryland's like a unique bag. It's really truly a one of a kind bag. Nobody else makes a bag like it. And it got a really good review. There's a guy named Mike, and he has Mike's Bags on YouTube. And he posted a review about that bag, and it was very positive. And so I'm just sitting at home one day, and my phone goes off when I get an order on my website, right? Makes me happy.
Right.
So my phone goes off. I get a little specific sound. I'm like, oh, an order on my site. Cool. And then in the next like 5 minutes, I was just sold out. I'm like, what happened? I'm like, what is going on? And it was literally like on a Tuesday morning or some random time. And it just happened that Mike's Bags posted a review of it and really liked it. So the Maryland is ACO stamped. It's very popular. And I think it really fits with what I think is your standard ACO gameplay, which is hole for hole. But I've gone to 2 of your majors, and that's what I was up against. Most guys are hole for hole. Yeah, Spencer's not. Spencer's a block and flop. And a lot of the guys that play in Texas that will be down in Bryan, Texas are block and flop guys. So we'll see. The Maryland's more of a hole for hole bag, but the Bandit Queen is a very good block and flop bag. Spencer block and flops the Great. That's his bag. It's called the Great.
Yeah, that's one custom made for him too.
Yeah, even though I could barely flop that bag, but he can throw that bag with such a high backload that he can get over almost anything with it. So.
You really got a good one there in Spencer. I got to tell you. So he's told me numerous times that that he's got one thing in mind, and that's being the king of cornhole this year. And
oh, is that right?
He's come close to winning the world singles. So and you have one that can do it. I mean, he's finished second in 2 big majors right now so far that he's competed in.
He's right there.
So he is definitely right there. So you got a big one. So. I don't know. You had said that was your only ACO player right now.
That's it. I sponsor Spencer. And that's it. Yeah, sponsoring players as a bag maker is difficult. At least at TCL, it's very difficult because they have a wholesale retail relationship where every single bag has to go through them. So it's difficult to sponsor players in TCL. But in your system, it's pretty easy. And I guess I'm looking for more players to sponsor. But at the same time, I'm not looking to just start paying players to throw my bags. Right. That's kind of how I've been operating, for better or for worse. Right. Some companies have been very successful by paying people to throw their bags, and I just haven't done that.
You got to make sure you're getting some kind of return for sure.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I think we've covered everything, man. So I will see you in like 2 or 3 days. We're going to play a game. Awesome. You're going to drink my beer when I beat you. We're playing skins, right? That's the plan.
We're playing skins, baby. Beer for beer.
All right, cool.
Whatever you're drinking these days, energy drinks, water, whatever you want.
Man, you know what? I like hibiscus tea.
There you go. We're playing for hibiscus tea for you.
Maybe an Arnold Palmer. Do they have those where you are? The lemonade iced tea.
There you go. We got those out here. Those are pretty cheap though. I'm gonna get off light here on you.
I know. I'm a cheap date. I don't put out those, so it's not that great. So All right, cool. So I'm going to post about the Big D sponsorship for the Bryan, Texas. We'll do that
Yep.
on social media so people can get out there and see it. I will be posting this video probably tonight or tomorrow. We'll edit it and get it up there. And that's it. You have anything else? I want everybody that listens to the show to know who Frank Geers is. So hopefully they listened all the way to the end. They know all about Frank Geers and everything that you've done for the sport we all love. So thanks, Frank. I'm so happy that you actually decided way back when, over 20 years ago, to start taking cornhole seriously and turn it into what it is today. Thanks. As a guy who loves cornhole, thank you.
Dude, I appreciate it. It is interesting because I do wonder, if or how this game would have evolved. If it would have, I really don't. We don't know what would have happened, or it would be a whole different game and a whole different place. I think for sure without the ACO. So, but I'm happy to be part of it. I'm happy to be part of the history, and I'm super excited to be part of the future of this sport. So, looking forward to the next 20 years.